presenter of his inspiration is Matthew White. And I'd like to just call to your attention that Matthew's career actually involves all aspects, or has touched all aspects of the creative arts. And he received training at the American School of Ballet. He spent 5 years with the Los Angeles Ballet Corps. Then he switched his creative interest to graphic design, which in turn actually led to the ownership of an antique shop in Pasadena. And then, in fact, he pursued further education in the decorative arts. So I believe each one of those categories. I think you're only missing music, but perhaps you have something there for us. Matthew and Frank Webb have their own firm, and along with their acclaimed interior design work, the two gentlemen also have designed 2 collections of furniture. Most relevant to our time together here, Matthew is the president of the Save Venice Foundation. And without further ado, welcome Matthew.
Thank you so much. Is that good? Is that all right? First of all, it's such a thrill to be here, and I want to thank the sponsors whose names you've seen up on the screen, and of course the organizers of this. This summit actually combines 2 passions of mine. First is design, and the second is Italy in general and Venice in particular. So this photo here is of the Church of San Giorgio Maggiore, which is a Palladian church. What I love about Venice is the broad spectrum of architecture, from the Basilica San Marco, built about 1,000 years ago, to the early Gothic, late Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, Rococo, Neoclassical. It's all here. And it's such an unusual situation to be in a city where all these things exist. About 12 years ago, a friend introduced me to the organization Save Venice. Save Venice is an American organization that raises money to restore art and monuments in Venice. And every 2 years, the organization has benefits here in Venice, these incredible galas, 3 days of nonstop parties. And it's one thing to experience Venice, as we all do, but to come into these incredibly lavish parties in private palaces, it sort of gives you a whole different point of view about Venice. So after that first experience, I was inspired to create a party on my own, and I founded, along with my friend Hutton Wilkinson, who you probably know as Tony Duquette, the owner of the Tony Duquette Company. Hutton and I co-founded the California chapter of Save Venice, and so I hosted a party in my own home in Pasadena. I no longer live there, I live in New York, but at that point, 10 years ago, I lived in California. And the event was an overwhelming success, both financially and launched the California chapter. This is the table in my garden. We had a 100-foot-long table. Hutton pulled these candelabra from from Tony Duquette's old storage unit. They were all singed, burned. As we know, Tony Duquette had a lot of luck with fires, anyway. So he brought in Tony Duquette's candelabra. It was an incredibly successful event. Socially, we had rock stars and directors and leaders in business. And after that, I was asked to be on the board of Save Venice. Last February, or just a few months ago in February, was one of our biennial events here in Venice. And this is a picture of the ball we had in this very room. What's interesting about this space, I think, is it was originally the Palazzo Dandolo. You notice that it's not really part of the building of the Monaco. There's a courtyard between. That courtyard was covered up, and this was a palace. In about 1638, this was turned into the Ridotto Pubblico, which is a public gambling house. Casanova actually carried on in these very rooms. So we sort of recreated that, I suppose, with this masked ball. We raised $340,000 for our efforts. And I know that some of you have been to our Save Venice events, and so you know how great they are. And those who haven't really should, because they're incredible. But it's really not about parties, it's about restoration. This is the Church of San Sebastiano, which is a little jewel box of a church. And what is incredible about this space is that it is entirely designed by the artist Veronese. Veronese is one of the three great painters of the Renaissance. There was Titian, Tintoretto, Veronese. So the entire interior is quite unusual for a church to be completely decorated by one artist. So not only did he do all the paintings, the frescoes, some of the interior architectural detail as well, the entire interior is by this great master of Venetian Renaissance. So Save Venice has taken on this restoration project. In the ceiling there's a square painting. It's flanked by two oval paintings. And we're just starting at the top and working our way down. It's going to be a multi-million dollar restoration. It's going to take many years. Hopefully it'll be done in 5 years. There will be a beautiful book when we're done with the restoration. Here we are with those paintings taken down. You recognize behind me is Frederick, who spoke to us yesterday. He's one of the scholars on the board. David Rosand is also one of the scholars, the gentleman in the blue shirt. To be able to see paintings that were, for centuries, 30 feet in the air, 12 inches away, is just an incredibly inspiring experience. Here they are in the restoration workshop here in Venice. This was taken last summer during our board meeting. They have now been fully restored. They will go into the academia temporarily until the ceiling is ready to receive them. Our next phases are the frescoes, and then the organ shutters, and it just goes on and on. Eventually we'll get to the outside and be able to restore the exterior as well. This is a few years ago. We look a little bit younger there, but Frank Webb and I, our first furniture collection when we first launched White Web was the Intaglio collection, and I'm sure you all see references to Fornasetti. My great passion is Italy in all its forms, from antiquity to today, from the south to Rome to Florence, and of course Venice, but we also love antique engravings, and I'm more of a classicist. Frank is a modernist, and this was a way for us to blend our two points of view into a contemporary or a modern, almost conceptual furniture collection, which has led us to some very interesting commissions. I'm actually sitting on a console table that is what we do is we take antique engravings and of course the engravings are small, and we turn them back into actual size pieces. This is a Pompeian engraving, an 18th century Italian engraving of a Pompeian table. Before I met Frank, I designed a silver collection, and it's actually for sale over at Nardi. Nardi is a very well-known jeweler here in Venice. And the amazing thing about this experience was I was able to go to the workshops of Venetian metalworkers. These metalworkers were so purely Venetian, they did not even speak Italian. I don't know if you really realize that Italy was not a country till about 1860. Venice was a republic. It's basically its own country with its own language, with its own form of government for 1,000 years. And that all sort of came to a crash in 1797 with Napoleon. But to work with Venetian craftsmen who have had that ability handed down to them through the generations was quite an experience. Nardi is a beautiful jewelry store in the Piazza San Marco, has been there since 1920. Our latest furniture collection is actually these small acrylic tables. Again, blending ancient forms with modern technology and modern forms. You see little pointed arches in these tables, which you could say could be Moroccan or Indian, but you can also say they're very Venetian. Venice being having centuries of trade, was very influenced by the Middle East, by Arabian design. Persian design, Turkish design, Indian design, Chinese design. All of that came here and influenced architecture here, as you've noted, with all the Gothic windows on the palaces. I guess I've culminated my great passion for Italy in a book that is just going to launch when we go back to New York. It's a book I've been working on for 10 years, but about 2 years ago I met with Suzanne Slessen, who's sitting here. I guess if I had a dream of a publisher to work for, it would be Susie, because her books to me are so much more than just pretty pictures and descriptive copy. It really goes much more deeper into the issue, which is what I'm mostly interested in. So, but this copy is placed, this is our luxury edition. We call it the Save Venice edition. It's limited to 100. They sell for $250 with 100% of the profits going to Save Venice. If you don't know Susie, and I know most of you do, you got to say hello, because she truly, in my opinion, is a giant in our industry. She invented the style book, basically. How we view interiors and architecture and the decorative arts has been transformed by Suzanne's lesson, and for me to work with her, I can't even tell you what a dream it was. This is, that's it. This is the final image. This is my house in the country, and those of you who are lucky enough and smart enough to have signed up for the Palladian tour, I mean, if you haven't seen the Palladian villas, my God, I mean, just go see them. A lot of my work is a lot of my personal passion is centered around Palladio and Italian style, and this is one of the projects featured in my new book. So thank you very much. Thanks.